Today we're going to work on pigeon pose to open up the outside of the hip, like your glute area, and also the hip flexor on the front of the hip. Mostly I'm going to be going over alignment and how to use props to get yourself in the right position. First, we're going to talk about how I feel like most people approach pigeon, and it seems like the goal is to get your forehead to the ground. So the most basic setup of pigeon is here, and then I hear it approached as if what you want more than anything is to rest your forehead on the ground, and I don't think that's the most important thing. So to me, the most important thing, and then everything else can come from that, is this hip bone pointing toward the floor. It tends to maybe drop out to the side or do something weird. And you can also tell by, is that back kneecap pointing straight toward the floor? So first things first, dialing everything way back prop-wise. The first prop we may want to use, I'm on a decently cushioned carpet right now, but you could put a yoga mat on top of this. You could even put a comforter or blanket. I wouldn't do a pillow under this because it's a little too much. It will make you uneven. But we're going to have this leg here, so if it feels like a lot of pressure on your knee or ankle, you just want to soften the ground underneath it. I'm going to scoop this dog out. He's about to pass out, so I think we might lose him during this video, but for right now, he likes to pace before he passes out. Okay, so ways to get into this. You can be in this lightning bolt pose with both knees about 90 degrees, hands on the ground, just push up and drop into it. You can come into this pose from a down dog, where you just take that knee forward and slide into it, or you can come in a very similar direction from hands and knees and just slide that knee forward. So I'm going to come from hands and knees and talk you through this one. As we're taking this knee forward, we're thinking about meeting it to the same side wrist. So that knee comes forward toward that wrist, and then maybe in between the hands. And then this foot is in front of this thigh, kind of like underneath your groin. From here, we just drop back. So take this leg, and you're thinking about sliding it back. And then as you do that, this knee comes more in between your wrists. And maybe it would feel more comfortable, mine would, to turn it more out to the side. I'm going to show this from a different angle in a second. The more out to the side isn't necessarily better. It doesn't mean you have a deeper stretch. It has a lot to just do with how your thigh bone is aligned inside your hip. So I'm going to show same thing from the front, but I'm just going to show on the other leg. So from hands and knees, that's never not going to be funny to me. From hands and knees, this knee comes toward this wrist, and then take it just inside, and then this foot comes in front of that thigh, and then this back leg slides back as you drop into it, and then from here, maybe this knee is kind of pointing forward, maybe it's pointing out to the side. You sort of determine what feels best, which isn't necessarily what feels like the deepest stretch, right? It's just what feels best for you today. Next step. So we're here, we're lined up. Leg is slid back. Now, you want to feel super, super stable. And I'm not very warm right now, so this hip is elevated in the air. And if that makes you feel a little bit tippy, or like there's a lot of pressure on your knee, or like you can't relax, we want to put something underneath this butt cheek. So if you have yoga blocks, that can be a yoga block. You can see that lifted my hip up a little bit higher. So if you're Suki, it's mayhem, I'm sorry. So if you want a pretty intense solid support and you're lifted up a little higher, this block can be whatever height it needs to be to support you. To me, this feels uncomfortable because it feels like it's pitching me forward and it's a little too solid. So I'm just gonna grab a pillow from the couch. This can be a rolled up towel, it can be a rolled up blanket that you dubbed your yoga blanket, whatever works. So just slide that underneath your butt, and I feel like you can already see that's just more comfortable. I'm just totally relaxing into it. So now deep breath in, and as you exhale, that back hip bone is gonna turn toward the front, and your back knee points right toward the floor. So again, I'm just gonna show this from the other direction. So come into this position, rest your butt cheek on the pillow, and then usually hips are sort of aligned right here. Deep breath in. As you exhale, this hip bone, woo, totally different stretch, points right to the floor, and that back kneecap is pointing straight down. I hear a lot of yoga teachers say all 5 toenails on the floor. That's another good way to follow it, but my baby toe is never going to touch the floor, so that's kind of the direction we're going now. I'm going to switch back to the other view. Actually, I'm going to come this side on for right now. And now we decide what feels most open. So this hip flexor right here is stretching, and the glute on that back hip is stretching. And your body kind of decides which one's going to be prioritized here. But so deep breath in, think lift your chest. And as you exhale, think about everything that's on the floor getting heavier. Like your hips just sink, that back leg relaxes. And then kind of naturally check in with what does your body want to do with this. Some days it feels real nice for me to stay lifted. This pose is technically a back bend. Other days I want to come lower. So again, I'm going to show this part with the yoga block. This could be a pillow, a pile of pillows, a rolled up blanket. You could use your coffee table. Literally whatever is in your house that would be comfortable to lean on. So hip bone pointing toward the floor. And then I'm going to put this on the highest level, and I'm going to start sliding my hands forward, and I'm going to drop to my forearms, and I'm just going to assess here. Sometimes I get here and I feel like this was a horrible idea, and then you just back out. But if you are comfortable on your forearms, I'm going to talk you a little bit more through the breath, even though this isn't really a class. I like to think when you breathe in, you get length. So breath in like you're pushing your chest forward, getting length in your spine. And as you exhale, you sink in, everything gets deeper. So sometimes that means I want to take this back foot and kind of inchworm my hips a little bit further back, which turns this knee further out. Actually, let's cover that first. AQ, I hear a lot in yoga with this foot is if you want to open it up more, pick up this foot and take it forward. I don't love that cue. I think it can put a lot of torque on the knee in a way that isn't great, and it can get you into a position that's deeper than you want it to be for the knee. So I teach it, so we're sunken, pretend we're hanging out. Breath in, lengthen the spine. Exhale, everything gets deep, and I can feel, maybe I want to lose this pillow, first of all. Maybe you don't. Do whatever you want. This back toe tucks under. I'm thinking about this foot staying put. And as I inchworm back, you can see that back knee opened up. It's the same direction as if you pull this foot forward, but it just more naturally aligns your body where it wants to go rather than you wrenching it into place. Okay, I'm gonna put the pillow back under because this is a long pigeon pose. So now we've dropped to forearms. And then we want to try to relax the neck. So starting with the block, it's a little easier to see, the dark side forward. With the block on its highest level, we just rest here. And this is where it gets to how long are you going to hang out in this pigeon pose. If you're doing 5 minutes on each side, which happens in class a lot, maybe you do start out with it on the highest level, and as time goes by, it gets lower. Again, keeping in mind the goal is not forehead to the floor. The goal is open both hips. This hip bone points toward the floor. And then relax is a weird word for everything we have going on, but you want to think about relaxing. So we can be here. If you don't have a block and pillows aren't feeling great, I like to work with hands. So you can stack one fist on top of the other and rest your forehead there. Again, if you want a little deeper, it can be one fist. If it feels like you've got further to go with this hip bone pointing down, of course you can slide your hands forward. Just from this depth, straight arms come forward, forehead comes to the floor. It's gonna feel like my belly is resting on this heel. And again, we're gonna work with that breath. So breath in, think lengthen the spine like you're pushing your chest forward. Exhale, everything that's low, sink it even lower. Maybe you inchworm that back foot back again and hang out. When we're ready to come out, we do walk our hands back up to our forearms and then back up to our hands. There are a couple releases here. My favorite one is tuck this back toe under, really push through the back toe and the hands to press right up to down dog, and then just pedal in. But you also have 1,000 other options. A real gentle one. Look how pretty. Sorry, that was gross. Oh my goodness. A real gentle one from the depth of it. Again, use your hands a lot. Push to your hip. I would use my hand for this too. Bring that back leg around and just sort of windshield wiper out. After we're in a pretty deep stretch for a really long time, we want to get some movement in that area just to get some blood flow happening. I hope this helped with your pigeon pose whenever it pops up in class, or if you want to try it just regular in your life. If you have any questions, please ask. Hi, Mimi.